Hey man, happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
It's good. Busy. I mean, I had to think about it for a second because I think we've only been back for a full week, but it seems like a full month.
Yeah, I mean, busy is probably an understatement. I probably have never been this busy in the first week
Yeah.
of the year in a very long time. So it's good. The conversation's been great. Um, and I think everyone's jazzed for 2026.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I feel like coming out of reInvent, right? reInvent was the first week of December. Everyone had what they thought were like 2 weeks back and then things were kind of shut down. But everyone I talked to, those 2 weeks, it seemed like we did 2 months worth of work in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of our customers and a lot of people that I was speaking to directly, we had to push, and that's why this first week was so busy, is because they had to push a lot of that because they had timelines that they just were, you know, stretched into.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you and I were both at reInvent. We probably had 50 different conversations with partner marketers across every partner type. What was the show like for you? What did you hear? Tell me about your experience.
The reinvent experience was awesome this year, and I think even more so than other years. Um, I think because the hype, the AI hype was in the air that it was for 2025. And people were energized. People are excited about where AI is taking their businesses, the implementation. And I think that's probably one of the things we'll talk about going into 2026 is how we're moving from kind of testing into actual, putting it into play,
Hmm.
putting AI into play into their operations, and seeing where that goes.
Now, thinking about some of the specific conversations you had at reInvent with partner marketers, what were some of the top challenges you feel like people were facing this year heading into the new year? And what's working or how are people prioritizing? And feel free to take that kind of wherever you want. I don't know exactly what you guys talked
Yeah, I
about.
mean, look, I think it came down to the challenges. They're not so much different year over year, quarter over quarter, but I think there's the complexities of what AI implementation into their own individual workflows, into their partnership workflows, into what that meant from a how that played into their day to day, right? And I think because of the hype that was out there and the pressure to really move these companies forward. When you think about the hyperscalers out there, when you think about the system integrators and just the ecosystems that are pushing AI forward, I think was more the biggest challenge, and you could call it a priority as well, is calming the chaos, right? Is just like quieting the noise so that you can actually implement and that you could actually work. So I think another real challenge was timing, because things are moving so fast and they're being asked to do a lot more with less. So timing and program execution, working in that kind of co-partner fluidity, was important and a focus.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I think from my end, there were kind of two main challenges I saw a lot of partner marketers face, kind of in two buckets. One is around attribution, which has always been the biggest challenge, and the other is kind of around fragmentation, which I want to dive into later. But from an attribution standpoint, it's funny. I had a Carlos Roman on earlier this year, and that was kind of my thing. I was thinking through some of these challenges I was hearing, and then relating that to some of the podcast guests I had on. And so
Sure.
Carlos was awesome because he said, I have his quote here. I think he said, you can 10x your resources without 10xing your cost, right? So there's this
True.
multiplier within partner marketing if you can do it right. But, the challenge is attribution and doing more with less, like you said. And I also had Greg Portnoy on from Euler. He's got one of the partner relationship management platforms out there, and he was saying partner teams are driving 30 to 50% of business revenue,
Right.
but they're only getting a tenth of the headcount of a traditional sales team. And so here you are, you have this organization that's driving all this revenue, but they're getting a fraction of the resources, whether that's headcount, budget, you name it, tools to do their job. And a lot of that comes back to attribution.
Yeah.
And, just to being able to, pinpoint, is this, partner source, is this partner influence, and being able to attribute it. And that was what Greg went down that rabbit hole, is just how hard it is, even today with all these tools out there, to pinpoint the successful job that we're doing and tie that back to the resources we need to be successful, even though we're 10xing our business revenue because of partner marketing.
Absolutely. And I think that always comes down to, and from what I hear from our customers, is alignment between marketing and sales. And, are they aligned is, are they going after the same goal?
Yeah.
And understanding each other's role and how to obtain that goal.
And I wouldn't even just say it's just sales. I think Greg pointed out that executive leadership has sometimes a
Absolutely.
hard time understanding the work that goes into partner marketing. And then you layer on the attribution challenges on top of that,
Yeah.
there's a big disconnect.
Very big disconnect.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
Agreed.
I had Kathy on earlier.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, not Kathy. I had Catherine Rose on from the Channel Marketing Association, just diving a little bit more in attribution. She said, what did she say? She said over 60% of partner marketers don't have rigorous ROI on tracking events, despite on average they're spending $250,000 on events alone each year.
That
It-
sounds like that's on the low end of what they spend on events.
yeah, I know. And it's just, I mean, I think that's just, even when you have a standalone event, to be able to track ROI properly on it is just a challenge for partner marketers.
Yeah. No, I think that's a reality that they're all dealing with, because when we talk about partner marketing, right, and especially when we're talking about it as it aligns to events, you're also including field marketing, you're also including sales, you're also including the full partnership team.
Yeah.
So, like, when you look at that, it's like it's challenging to get full alignment across the team, not only just on your side but on both sides of the partnership. So there's lots of challenges and priorities that they have to look at. And I think that what that leads, what that tends to come back to is just having trust in the partnership, and having, part of that trust is just having clear communication, having, a path forward of what this looks like, how we're going to go to market, and everyone kind of sticking to the game plan.
It's funny about like how sophisticated we're getting with AI and technology. And at the same time, the importance is coming back on the trust and relationship simultaneously
Absolutely.
and I think the people that are really succeeding are figuring out how to lean in on both simultaneously. And you have this dual motion of, technological advancement to drive scale and efficiency while building trust and relationships, because we're not going to solve the attribution challenge tomorrow. And you have to have that, trust and relationship of your executive leadership, your partners, your internal field team, just across the board to be able to execute and scale.
For sure. Now, so I mean, what are you seeing? Like, what are the priorities that you're seeing for 2026 coming out of 2025? What we learned from the reinvent event that we went to, but also the events and the conversations that we were involved in coming out of, a lot of the hyperscaler events throughout the year. Like, what are you seeing as a priority for 2026?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest priorities that I got out of reInvent and some of these other conversations we had in that little 2 weeks that seemed like 2 months heading into the holiday was, it's aligned with the challenge of fragmentation in the sense that, partner marketers do a lot of activities. They do events, they run webinars, they run lead gen, white paper content syndication, producing content. And they can do all that with just one partner on a quarterly basis. And then you multiply that by 3, 6, 12 partners, right?
Sure.
And you just have these siloed activities across the board. So obviously that's a challenge from a successful scale standpoint, because, you know, it's not always an apples to apples conversation in terms of how you're running programs, how you're executing. And so a lot of them, what I've seen is there's agency bloat. They're working with a ton of expert agencies in these little areas. Siloed activities means the data is siloed, and they're constantly having to reinvent the wheel. Every quarter, it's okay, new webinar, new partner, new initiative, new target. I got to reinvent this and build this from the ground up.
Absolutely.
So, aligned with that priority is, how do we think about a more system led approach to scaling activities? How do I build motions where I can reuse the motion each time and, but still be flexible with, let's face it, partners have individual messaging, unique targets. You look at different regions, how they go to market in Germany is completely different than Singapore. Right. And so, but that doesn't mean the motion has to reinvent itself each
Right.
time. And so I think, you and I, these are a lot of the conversations we've been leading with partner marketers is how do we create a structured architectural framework,
Yep.
where the motion is consistent, but it flexes with partner, region, target, initiative, fill in the variable.
Fill in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big priority, I think, for partner marketers is figuring out how to create those reusable motions that scale, and as a little advertisement for what we've been doing, that we built our own partner ecosystem. So we have best of breed content providers, best of breed lead gen providers, LinkedIn, you just fill in the blank. And so we can help architect those solutions, find that perfect partner to come in to execute, but in an integrated way. And I think just to kind of cap this off from a priority standpoint, something that we've seen as a best practice what partner marketers are doing, kind of this dual motion where they'll have an always on motion, quarterly lead generation. Let's just put it like that, content syndication.
Right.
We set up the framework, content can be part of that, but it's kind of an always on motion that can flex with partner and region. And then the other motion is more of an event driven motion. So, okay, we have a big event coming up, right? Well, how are we connecting that with our digital activities? We have a big webinar coming up. Whatever that moment of time is, what is that reusable motion that's aligned to those moments of time where we can just again take that variable, whatever that moment in time is, plug it into our reusable motion framework, and then execute against it.
For sure. No, and I think, we've been having the conversations and internally and externally with our customers. So what I'm hearing you say and what we've been kind of communicating to our customers is having that balance or that motion of architecture and orchestration,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, I think it really depends on the partnership that you're looking at, whether that is a alliance or strategic partnership or a scale or channel partnership, right? All because those are the nuances there. They're much different, and the complexities are much different in each one of those. So when you're looking at strategic and alliance partnerships and they're coming out of these tentpole or building up to a tentpole event, it's not, maybe it's theirs, call it the AWS reinvent, but a lot of those marketers are now moving into the next quarter and their partnerships are flowing into their event. So moving from a reinvent into a next into a knowledge with ServiceNow, you name the event. It's how do you connect those dots? Where's the connective tissue that's connecting everything between each one of these events and sticking with the architecture of the plan that you built in co-partnership.
I love how you talk about the nuance because I think honestly, that's why we built this business, right? Is because there's so much nuance and complexity in it. And to your point, like, how we build a motion for AWS plus, particular ISV plus fill in the distributor
Right.
globally, right? That motion is going to look totally different than if it's AWS plus the ISV plus their system integrator partners, right? I
Right.
mean, you can't treat distributors the same as SIs as ISV. I mean,
No.
there's all different partner types, right? And it's funny, in our experience working at these big publishers, how many companies out there are, again, providing best of breed solutions. They might be the best lead gen provider out there. And we've filled our partner ecosystem with them, but they don't necessarily understand the nuance of the partnership
Right.
types. And then you start to layer in regional influence, the way we go to market in Germany versus Singapore, as an example. Like you start to lay
Absolutely.
in these other nuances, things get exponentially complex. And you got to, coming back to your point, you got to have a trusted partner that can help you navigate that.
For sure. For sure. And again, I think it goes back to what I was saying around timing. And like that's part of it. Is like getting all of the regions, getting everyone within your region on the same page, getting people within global regions on the same page, and then moving from each one of those events. Because I look at the end of the day, from what I've seen and the and what I've heard from our customers at these events are 3 to 5 day kind of field marketing. They're just in there. This is their go to market. This is where they can have strategic conversations. This is these are real time, what's working now. How are we going to move over the next 3 to 6 months? How do we need to communicate this? Above and below, with the feet on the street and with the executives. So they're using these not only to amplify the joint solution, but they're using these events for validation, for execution, and for buy-in from the executive field from both sides of the partnership.
Yeah, I love how you say how important it is to get these partners. I use it loosely because those could be internal partners versus external partners on the same page and get them in the room together. I think is what you said.
Yep.
So I had Rachel Roundy on from Snowflake, and she came in from a product marketing lens, but she comes from Intel with which was partner led growth.
Sure.
And we were talking about how important the feedback loop is, and just I think it's especially the partner marketer. Wearing your partner marketing hat, just how busy you can get in the day to day in these activities you have to do that sometimes you really have to pull yourself out and just ask yourself again, system led growth. What system do I have in place to collect feedback from my internal partners, my external partners, and incorporating that feedback to make sure that these activities are in line, they are scaling.
Right.
Again, going back to the trust and relationship, feedback loops are so important to building that trust and relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So are we good with some priorities? Do you feel like we've
Yeah.
answered some
Um,
priorities there?
I think there's a, we could probably go on and on in priorities. I mean, where do you want to go next?
um, you know, from a 2026 perspective, I think 2025 we all lived through the hype of AI and Gen AI. I think 2026 is now about the practice and putting it, you know, operationalizing it, right? And I think from what we've done with our business is the implementation of AI to help nurture, right, and help further qualify leads for our customers, to bring context to sales, right, and bringing that that validation and support that sales needs. So that's what I'm hearing from our customers is like, what's the next step? How can we best support them, and how can they best support their internal teams of with implementation, going beyond the implementation, but now operationalizing it.
Yeah.
So what is it that they need to operationalize, and how are they going to do it? And what is that going to mean from an efficiency, if there's efficiencies in it? Because with these operationalizing and implementations, there's it's challenging. There's challenges with everything that you bring to the table.
Yeah, especially I think for partner marketers who, and this sounds wrong, but they sit at the fringe of the organization, right? They're not corporate, and they're not field, and a lot of times they're siloed off organizations. So for them to operationalize IT investment, that's probably going to be led by corporate or some other entity within the
Right.
organization, right? And so and that's why I love how we're positioned, because we're operationalizing it as an agency. The partner marketers can come in, take advantage of that operationalized infrastructure of AI, we're using for nurture and qualification, without having themselves to figure out how to get IT involved and get security involved
Right.
and data privacy, right? They can just focus on the outcomes that we provide, taking advantage of that. And I think we're going to see more partners out there kind of take that model where, look, we're not going to sell you an AI platform. We're going to focus on the outcomes that you need, and AI is part of that.
Is part of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
What else are you excited for 2026? What's got you all pumped up? I know we got some big events coming up. It's almost event season.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always event season, right? I mean, quarter after quarter. Um, I, I think what I'm excited for is to continue to build in our own ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because again, going back to outcomes and servicing our customers, it's just making sure that we always have the best breed of partnership in our ecosystem to serve our customers the best way that we can. So that's what I'm excited for. Excited to bring in folks that can help us with content strategy, that can help us with creating content.
Yeah, and I think that just it models kind of going back to the challenge that partner marketers have around agency bloat, right? So, content doesn't sit in a silo. You're typically integrating it in a program, right? And so working with PartnerVista, go out and run leads and audiences in the best places. Like, we're building the best of breed structure, so partner marketers don't have to work with 20 different agencies to execute. And we understand the nuance and complexity, right?
Right. And again, going back to the challenges, that's one of them, is that,
Yeah.
or I should say, pain points of marketers, is that they don't want to have to work with 20 different vendors. They'd like to reduce that. And we get a sense of that, and we're trying to solve for that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm excited for the events this year. I mean, reInvent was, I think it just showed just kind of how big community is right now, and that's mirroring kind of what we're trying to do with Never Go to Market Alone in the community we're building.
Right.
Like, there's just this hunger for personal relationships, to see people in person, to connect,
Absolutely.
to like understand. Okay, my challenges might not be unique. Other people might be facing this, and then to learn like, well, how are you facing it? What are you doing? Like, what's working? And then just to be able to be part of that. I know we did the happy hour meetup for Never Go to Market Alone or
Right.
reInvent. We're probably going to do that again at Next and Nvidia's GTC and the
GTC.
rest, right? So just I'm very excited for community. I know like our the partner marketing broader community is very hungry for it.
Yep.
They want to meet with other marketers that are working at tech, that are focused on alliance and distributors and all, fill in the blank, and just talk to them and hear what's working and not working.
Yeah, I get the sense of that, in speaking with a lot of our customers and partner marketers just out there, is that there's a hunger for it. I think it'll just take work out of it. I think there's a hunger for it in general,
Yeah.
just as human beings. I think that we need that connection. People yearn for it. I think that we've spent a lot of our, the last decade in front of technology and letting technology lead us. But I think at the end of the day, that people want to reunite with humans. They want to interact. They want that touch. They want to be hugged. They want to see someone smile. That there's something that energizes you. So as much as this is about business, I think it's also just about being a human, and that's where the trust also comes into play. So when you can have that one-to-one interaction or a group interaction, I think that kind of feeds into the energy of what they're doing professionally.
Yeah.
And when you can tap into that, that energy is enormous.
And I know, kind of putting you on the spot here, but we talked about doing maybe actually a community service project here in the Denver
Mm.
area with our local partner marketers. We should probably set that up for Q1, don't you think?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, it's always needed out
Yeah.
there. There's never a lack of need, whether that's your local, food bank or your soup kitchen. There's always a need for volunteers. So yeah, I think that we should set it up for Q1 and probably set a goal for ourselves that maybe it's a minimum of two,
Yeah. Yeah.
every year, and hopefully that can build to quarter after quarter, or every 6 weeks, or doing something and just implementing something that has legs that's happening within our community that we're affecting it positively.
Yeah, I love it. And we're trying to, I think, open the doors back to the Slack community. We have the doors closed right now with our founding
Right.
members. There's about 50 partner marketers in there for some, great companies like Salesforce, ServiceNow, Google, to some startups that are, partner marketers of one doing it all. And so there's a really good mix of people in there. But, I think we're getting ready to open the doors, and hopefully that will take off and just kind of add to this community that we're building.
Yeah, I mean, look, the feedback has been great. Everyone loves to collaborate with one another, connect, share ideas, not have to reinvent the wheel, ask questions like, "Hey, what vendors for this specific outcome are you guys using?"
Yeah.
So the community, it's coming to life right in front of us. It's definitely growing. We're learning a lot. So it's this has been a great journey thus far.
It's been a hell of a journey so far. I mean, I'm excited where it goes, what happens with our business, the community, partner marketing in general. Well, and we miss anything? I know we covered a lot. What else on your list?
Look, I think we covered a lot. It, yeah. What else? What else is there?
Man,
Other than to just go.
yeah. I mean, it's exciting. I'm excited for us to grow as a business. I'm excited for the community that we're building. I'm excited for with all the partner marketers that we're working with. And man, I just a shout out to how great they are. I mean, you and I have been working with B2B marketers for decades,
Right.
and just these folks that have to do so much with so little, and yet they're so willing to take risks. And that's what that risk part is what I love about it. They're all like, everyone's an entrepreneur in partner marketing. They really are. They're all
Uh,
running their own businesses.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think the risk factor is just innate, right? It's part of who they are. It's part of the DNA. It's part of the culture of partner marketing, of partnerships in general. Because again, partner marketing is one aspect of the full partnership team. So it's good to feel the energy of partnerships.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. It's an exciting year. Excited to take this with so many of our customers and partners, and let's get out there and do it.
Let's do it.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.